Good evening, everybody. I'm Pixie from Planet Pixie, and I plan weddings and events with a difference. If you are watching live, please do comment along, ask any questions. If you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay, and still feel free to ask any questions, and we'll try and come back to you. I'm joined this evening by Runa from Elska Ceremonies. Good evening.
Hello. Hello.
So tell us about what you do. You're welcome.
Well, I am a nature-based, that's how I explain, nature-based celebrant. I am pagan myself, so I also offer pagan ceremonies alongside that. Anything basically where anybody has a really close affinity with the earth, being outdoors, being indoors and having nature woven throughout the ceremony in there, in the language, in the metaphor, anything to do with the great outdoors. So that's the kind of ceremonies that I offer as weddings and hand fastings. Yeah.
It's not just weddings and hand fastings you do, is it? You do various other ceremonies.
Yeah, I do namings also, but I also offer one-to-one sacred ceremony, which comes from my pagan path, really, which helps women in those three different phases of their life, maiden, mother, and crone, embrace those phases of their life and move into them with an honouring, held in a sacred space. And I also offer, through my previous experience with my funeral work for the last 9 years, I offer grief ceremony, which is a new concept and it's just being born. But that is a project that I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah, you were just telling me, weren't you, before we came on, about the grief ceremonies, and I think they sound really
Yeah.
I don't really know the right word, but they sound like they'll be really beneficial for want of a better word, really. They do sound really interesting.
Thank you.
So how did you get into what you do?
Well, I initially started with funerals and went into weddings and hand fastings later on. I went into celebrancy as a whole because I lost my mum when I was 23. And the ceremony I went to for her, I didn't feel was full enough of her. And it made me realise that I could maybe work in reflecting people in ceremony the way I felt was needed. So that experience really affected me. And then a few years later, once I kind of built up enough strength to have the confidence to do ceremony, I trained as a celebrant and I did mainly funerals for quite a few years, but then friends and family and people asked me, about doing weddings and ceremonies. So I did do a few of them alongside the funeral work. But it's since having my girls in 2019 and 2020, it's really now that I'm going full steam ahead into the weddings and the hand fastings, uncovering who I actually am, and actually starting up properly, really, under Elska Ceremonies. So yeah.
So what? Because obviously being pagan yourself, what's your favourite ritual, and is it particularly a pagan one, or do you just have one that you like the symbolism for?
There is a lovely one actually, which can be used, called the labyrinth. So you can either create a physical labyrinth on the floor with stones or sticks or whatever it is, and it's basically designed so that you go in one way and you come out the same way. But you can do it in a meditation as well, if you want to, during a ceremony, but mainly people like to have it physically. And the bride and groom will walk into that labyrinth together, and there will be some special words spoken, or they will have a quiet moment, just looking at each other, have their moment in that labyrinth. And then when they walk back out again, they're being born into the world anew. So it's a similar thing to jump in the broom, which is quite common, but it's there's the opportunity for them to have a real connection in that labyrinth and an honouring of the fact they've just come together, and then they can walk out together with that bond. So that's a nice one.
That does sound like a lovely one. So
Yeah.
what other options are there? What things can people consider to have as part of a
Um,
ceremony, be it a wedding
they,
or any other ceremony, really?
God, it's so open. It's so and there's different paths of paganism. So I am very much Celtic and Norse influenced. So, I mean, they can have their candles, their unity candles, and that kind of in stand ceremonies if they want to. There is a cake and mead part of the ceremony where that's brought to the altar table there with the ceremony table and shared out between friends. Um, some people can, if they're getting married at Beltane. So Beltane is a very popular year of hand fasting because of what it means to the pagan wheel of the year. Then they can include Beltane ritual into that. And a lot of that, when people see maypole dancing, that's where it comes from. Um, so yeah, there is the jumping the broom option. They can include, if they're getting married or handfasted or a naming ceremony anytime near a particular new moon or full moon, you can incorporate that energy into your ceremony as well. So, I mean, it's just exciting starting on a blank canvas, and then, you know, it depends on what they want and where they are with their paganism. They don't have to be pagan. You know, I do ceremonies just for people that love the earth and nature. So they may want to do. We find a ritual to do with that. It depends what time of year it is as well. So
Yes,
hmm,
yes. You don't want to be
yeah.
outside with candles in the wind.
No, I've done that before. Well, they were
So
just
what?
like candles, no flame.
So what's the process of working with you? What process would you take somebody through to help them decide what they should include in their ceremony and which rituals are best for them?
Well, first of all, I have a chat with them online, a free chat, so they can get a feel of my energy, you know, and who I am, decide if they even want to have me as their celebrants. And then I would ask them whereabouts they're coming from in regards to nature, is it just the fact they're a lover of the earth? Are they pagan? You know, those kind of questions. If they are pagan, then you ask them which kind of path they lead. Um, is Have they lost anybody that they would like to have honoured at the ceremony in some way? Is there an element of the four directions? So are they very air based, or are they attracted to water or earth or fire? You know, because fire in a ceremony is really powerful. So yeah, some people are very attuned to a particular element, so you can kind of gather that and see whether there's a ritual you can use with that. And also, for instance, if they are north based, you know, and they follow that path, then there are rituals that you can do with mead, you know, and that kind of thing. So that's the process I go through with them. Um, and then I'd offer them a lot of ideas. We'd work together. We'd have a face-to-face meeting once this COVID is over, you know,
Yeah.
and start building their ceremony and just watching it come together. And with vow-wise, I'd help with that. Is there any special wording to do with the earth that they would like to have incorporated into it metaphorically? And you know, so I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm
It
making
does.
sense.
It does. So if somebody wants a wedding ceremony with you, basically,
Mm.
you'll help them with their rituals, their vows,
Yeah,
and presumably
yeah.
write things about them to say as part of
Yeah, well, I
the
normally send
ceremony.
off a questionnaire. So before I've met them face to face, I send off a questionnaire to the bride and the groom, or the bride and the bride, or the groom and the groom. So the couple having their hand fasting or getting married, or having a naming. And each person answers the questions in that questionnaire, but they don't show the other one. And then I get them back, and then I have a really good picture of who they are, of what this wedding means to them, of what the other person means to them, and what they've brought to their lives, how they've changed them, how they've changed their lives, so that I've got a bit of the story and a feel of them before I actually see them. So it's a bit of a head start, and they know that when I come round to see them, I know them a little bit better than starting from scratch on that meeting, and it's a good starting talking point anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What kind of questions do you ask them?
I ask them about the proposal. I ask them how they would describe themselves before they met this person. I ask them how would they describe the changes in themselves since they met this person. I ask in what ways have you changed together as a couple? So I'm trying to go through them in my head. I can see them on a piece of paper and trying to remember them.
Put you on the spot with that one.
I ask them, I actually sometimes ask them where they see themselves in 10 years' time, you know, because very, very often they are together and they're connected with that. So yeah, they are quite deep questions, and they don't have to answer them. But it gives a good feel.
What if they give you very unaligned answers?
I haven't had it yet, so I haven't had to deal with it, but I'll check in when it happens. But yeah, usually they're very connected. Sometimes when someone says, where do you see yourself in 10 years or so? I had one back where they'd moved to a different part of the country or something, and the other person hadn't. So they've got to work that out between themselves.
Yeah, yes, one's traveling the world and the other thinks they've got 10 kids.
Yes.
What?
All sorted out. But yeah, so they are quite personal questions, and you can gain an energy from them as well by how they've answered. Some people answer with a bit of humour, and some people are really deep about it, and you get a real sense of who they are. So yeah, well, you try to. You can't assume, but it's a good starting point anyway. Yeah.
I'd be terrible with questions like that. I'd be like, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's good fun. And it gives them, I don't know. I guess most people have said that it's good fun to answer them, and they're interested to know how the ceremony is born from that. You know, so, but they see the ceremony before the day anyway. Obviously, it's all approved before the day.
Yeah, that would be quite
on them.
Panic the night before, not knowing what you're going to stand up and say about them.
Bless them. Yeah, so it's quite organic. I like to go at it with flow. There's no limit to the amount of revisions which can be made. Even if it's every week, there's a change. It doesn't matter. You know, I just want that ceremony to be so perfect for them and just reflect everything that they are. I may be pagan myself. That only comes into it if the couple want it to. You know, yeah. Like I said to you, I did a lot of funerals and had to be very conventional in that world. So I'm used to just standing back and letting my celebrant self come forward. It's not about me. But if some people would seek me out because I'm pagan, and I'd understand where they were coming from. Some people, just because they love the earth and they know that I do. So
yeah, I think it's good because obviously a lot of celebrants do like hand fastings and things like that. But if you are pagan, presumably you're going to want a pagan to do that with you and for you.
Yeah, and to believe in it, you know, because it's about coming from an authentic place. That's why I've uncovered myself after leaving my funerals behind, and I'm going into this fully Runa, completely and utterly authentic. That's why I'm doing nature-based ceremonies, because I am an absolute passionate lover of the earth. I absolutely, I I absolutely love being outdoors. Everything to me is nature. I've got acorns this and leaves that, and my daughter's the same. So that's what I've
I'm
got to
very
offer.
much I'm very much a water baby, and my other half decided the other day that I am actually solar powered.
I love that.
Because without the sun, I'm absolutely useless.
God, who wants to go out when I know we need sun? We need the sun after the winter we've had. That's for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
I need the sun to function in any way, shape, or form.
I must say, I do like the rain. Like I said, I've done a ceremony in the rain and the wind, and it didn't faze me. I thought it was great fun. But yeah, it's going to happen doing outdoor ceremonies.
It probably depends what happens either side of that rain. Like, if it's a lovely, hot, sunny day, and you're outside and there's a quick shower and it's quite refreshing,
romantic,
is one thing. If you're stuck in a field at a festival and it hasn't stopped raining for 4 days and everybody's tents are flooding and the hair dye you applied just before you went is now a very, very faint mint green, and you look like you haven't dyed your hair for 6 years, not that I'm talking from personal experience, you may have a different experience of the rain.
Oh God, you poor thing. What we do for our work, eh?
Oh dear.
God. Yeah.
Yes. Well, depends what's happening around.
Yeah.
But yes, I think the rain can be beautiful, especially if you're not out in it.
Yes. Yeah. We always have a second option just in case, and but yeah.
Not many people want to get married in their wellies.
No, I am in Wales. What happens? The weather. Yeah.
Wales and wellies seem to go hand in hand.
Yeah, but you can still have a nature-based ceremony indoors as well. You can have ivy everywhere and have it, in what you wear, who you are, the language that you speak. So you don't have to be brave in the elements.
Even just being undercover. So even somewhere like a barn or a marquee, you can protect you from it, so you're a little bit more comfortable, but you're not hidden away from it.
Yeah, exactly. It's good fun.
So where do you cover? Because obviously you said you're in Wales, but where do you cover? Who can contact you?
I am in Ruthin, but I cover North Wales. I would go down to Mid Wales, and Cheshire, Shropshire, to those adjacent counties to me. I come from Shropshire anyway. I come from Shrewsbury, and yeah. So contacting me, if you type in Elska Ceremonies into Google, I'm there. I have a Facebook page, Elska Ceremonies. I also have a women's group on Facebook called Women of Elska. That's a community of like-minded women. There are some pagan people and some shaman people and some spiritual people and some people with no belief at all, but they just love it all and they love learning. And it's in there at the moment where I'm offering the online ceremonies. I do ceremonies on there for the Wheel of the Year, Beltane, and the summer solstice and all that. And I do moon ceremonies in there. And so yeah, any woman's free to join that group. It's a nice, safe, loving space. But yeah, and that's where you can contact me. And I'm mainly on Facebook. You need a phone number? An email?
That is up to
you. Elska.inquiries@hotmail.com at the moment. And yeah, my phone number's all over Facebook anyway on my pages. So if anybody wanted to send me a message or had any questions, feel free.
Well, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been lovely talking to you.
You're very welcome. I will just pop you back stage.
Okay then.
I'll be with you in a minute. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Like I said before, if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask them and we'll come back to you. And if you've watched on the replay, #replay, so we know you've been watching. And feel free to join me at the same time next week as I speak to Elizabeth from Bridal Reloved York.